I never thought I'd become the neighborhood hero for standing up to our HOA president, but when Linda Harper targeted the Thompson family while their son was fighting for his life, someone had to step in. It all started on a hot Tuesday afternoon when I saw workers building a temporary ramp at the Thompsons' house. Their 8-year-old son, Ethan, had leukemia, and after his latest chemotherapy, he needed a wheelchair to get around for a few months. The Thompsons were already struggling with medical bills and taking turns staying at the hospital. The last thing they needed was HOA trouble, but trouble came anyway in the form of Linda Harper, our 50-something HOA president with her short blonde hair and always frowning lips. I was watering my garden when I saw Linda marching over, clipboard in hand, fancy glasses on despite the cloudy sky. "Excuse me," she called to the workers, her voice fake sweet. "Do you have approval from the architectural committee for this ramp?" She pointed at it like it was a junk pile instead of something Ethan needed. A worker explained about Ethan's condition, but Linda didn't care. "Rules are rules," she said, waving her hand. "The Thompsons need to submit paperwork and wait. This ramp comes down now." I couldn't believe it. I put down my watering can and walked over. "Linda, you can't be serious," I said, trying to stay calm. "Ethan comes home from the hospital tomorrow. He needs this ramp to get inside." Linda turned to me with a fake smile. "Oh, hi, James. I get your concern, but nobody's above HOA rules. They signed the agreement when they bought the house." She tapped her clipboard. "If we let this slide, soon we'll have bright pink fences or cars parked on lawns. Total chaos." "This is a medical need," I argued, my calm slipping. "The Fair Housing Act says they can have this ramp for a disability. It's not about looks, it's about a kid getting into his home." Linda's eyes narrowed. "Are you a lawyer now, James? The Thompsons need to follow the process. If this ramp stays, they'll owe $100 a day." Then she turned and walked off, leaving the workers confused and me furious. I took pictures of the ramp and went to the hospital to talk to Michael and Sarah Thompson. When I told them what happened, Sarah cried. They had emailed the HOA last week about the ramp, but got no reply. Michael looked so tired from worrying about Ethan. "We can't pay fines on top of everything," Sarah whispered, holding her husband's hand. "Ethan comes home tomorrow. Are we supposed to carry him up the stairs when he's in pain?" "You won't have to, I promised." "Linda's wrong, and I'll fix this." That night, I did my homework. I printed out parts of the Fair Housing Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and cases where HOAs lost lawsuits for blocking medical ramps. I also found our HOA rules had a medical emergency exception that Linda ignored. The next morning, I was ready when Linda showed up at the Thompsons' house with her clipboard and a smug look. The ramp was still there, and Ethan was coming home that afternoon. "I warned you," Linda said loudly so neighbors could hear. $100 a day, starting today." I stepped up, holding my folder. "Actually, Linda, I have something you should see." I gave her my papers. "This ramp is protected by federal law for medical needs. Also, Section 7, Paragraph 3 of our rules allows temporary medical structures if the HOA is notified, which the Thompsons did last week." Linda's face turned red as she looked at the papers. "This doesn't matter," she snapped. "The committee still needs to approve the design." "The committee has 14 days to respond to emergency requests," I said calmly. "If they don't, it's automatically approved. It's in the rules." Neighbors were watching now, curious. Linda's lips tightened as she saw she was losing control. "This isn't over," she hissed, pushing the papers back at me. "We'll talk at the board meeting tonight." I smiled. "I'll be there, and I've invited someone from the Fair Housing Commission. They're very interested in our HOA's policies." It was a bluff, but Linda didn't know that. She stormed off, and neighbors came over to support the Thompsons. One said Linda fined them for a blue basketball hoop. Another got in trouble for unapproved roses. That night, the HOA meeting was packed. Word about the Thompsons spread, and people picked sides. Most backed the family, but Linda had her group, mostly older folks who thought loose rules would ruin property values. Linda started the meeting, her voice bossy as she fixed the microphone. Before we start, I want to address a violation at 23 Oak Lane. The Thompson property has an unapproved ramp without permission. I stood up. Point of order, this isn't on the agenda, so we can't vote on it tonight per the bylaws. Linda glared. This is an emergency issue the board can handle. Then I moved to classify the Thompsons' ramp as a medical necessity under Section 7, I said, knowing the room was with me. Their son comes home today after cancer treatment. People murmured, and Linda saw she was losing. But instead of stopping, she got louder. The look of our neighborhood affects everyone's property values, she said. If we allow this, soon we'll have sheds or ugly decks. The Thompsons knew the rules. Then Sarah Thompson, who had quietly entered, stood up. Her voice shook but was clear. My son just wants to come home with some dignity. The ramp is temporary, like we hope his wheelchair is. Is your property value worth more than my child's comfort? The room went quiet. Linda looked around but kept going, sounding clueless. This isn't about one kid. It's about community standards. The fine stays until they get approval. Michael Thompson stood next to his wife. Our son's been fighting leukemia for 7 months. We sent our request last week with doctor's notes. We followed your rules. Linda shuffled papers, nervous. I don't see that email. That's when I showed my proof. I projected an email on the screen, the Thompsons' request with Linda's reply, received, will review. You got the email, Linda, I said. Per the bylaws, you had 14 days to respond, or it's approved. Linda's face turned bright red. She stood, knocking over her water bottle. This meeting is out of order. I'm the president, and I decide what's an emergency. Then Henry Carter, a retired lawyer who rarely came to meetings, spoke up. The bylaws say medical necessities are automatically approved. Denying this ramp breaks federal law, which could cost the HOA $100,000 in fines. The room shifted. Board members looked worried. Linda sensed she was losing power and made a huge mistake. This is nonsense, she yelled, slamming the table. I won't let this neighborhood fall apart because people ignore rules. The Thompsons will be fined, and we'll put a lien on their house if needed. She pointed at me. And you, James, you're breaking the homeowner code by stirring up trouble. Your overgrown bushes have been ignored too long. The room exploded in shouts. Linda banged her gavel, screaming for order. When that failed, she did something unthinkable. She marched to the Thompsons and jabbed her finger in Sarah's face. Your son's illness doesn't make you special, she shouted, losing all control. Remove that ramp or else. What happened next went viral on social media. Sarah, the quiet preschool teacher, slapped Linda's finger away from her face. Linda gasped, holding her hand like she was hurt. She attacked me. Call 911. Arrest her. Shockingly, Linda called the police, claiming she was violently attacked at the meeting. Everyone froze as she demanded officers come immediately. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived, looking annoyed to be at an HOA fight. They talked to witnesses, who said Linda was the one pointing in Sarah's face, and Sarah just pushed her finger away. Henry Carter had recorded the meeting, which our bylaws allowed. The video showed Linda's aggressive pointing and Sarah's reaction. To Linda's shock, the senior officer turned to her. Ma'am, filing a false police report is a crime, right? Linda held up her unhurt hand. False? She hit me. The video shows you invaded her space, and she used reasonable force, the officer said. Plus, we hear you're enforcing rules that break the Fair Housing Act. The other officer took notes. We need your ID, ma'am. Linda's face went pale. I'm the victim, she cried. ID, please, the officer said firmly. As Linda dug through her purse, the officer added, filing a false report is a misdemeanor, with up to a year in jail and $2,500 in fines. The room was silent as Linda was taken outside to finish the police report. Through the windows, we saw her waving her arms, her cool act gone. The board quickly voted, unanimously approving the Thompsons' ramp retroactively, removing Linda Harper as HOA president, and apologizing to the Thompsons. 3 days later, Linda was charged with filing a false police report. At court, her bail was set at $5,000. As she was led away in handcuffs, her fancy glasses crooked and her neat hair a mess, she saw me in the crowd. Her look of shock and anger, knowing her power was gone, was unforgettable. The Thompsons brought Ethan home to a neighborhood that rallied around them. The ramp stayed until Ethan didn't need it anymore, and the HOA rewrote its rules to prioritize people over petty control. Linda moved away after her case, and our community became a kinder place, proving that standing up for what's right can change everything.